Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. The weather is warming up now in Australia. We are in spring. Some aspects of life, some aspects of nature just don't wait for human beings. They're not controlled by the humans. So the weather is one of those things. The leaves come out on the trees in spring here, so they're no longer looking dead, now they're looking alive. And they have a saying here in the mountains of Australia where we live. They say, curiosity killed the dog. When I was growing up in England, they had the saying, curiosity killed the cat. But here we have curiosity killed the dog, because with the warmer weather, snakes start to come out. And unfortunately, dogs love to follow scent trails and stick their nose into bushes and under logs and things. And quite often they get bitten by tiger snakes on the nose, and that can be the cause of their death. So they warn the dogs as best they can not to be too curious. And this is in line with the Buddha's teaching that heedlessness leads to death. Pamado machano patang. Heedfulness, apamado, amatapadang, leads to the deathless. When we're heedful, the mind doesn't die and we're not in danger. Ajahn Chah used to have many teachings in the same vein, so he would encourage meditators and practitioners to watch over their minds and watch themselves 90% of the time, and look at other people, concern yourself with other people just 10% of the time. And one of the reasons we practice mindfulness is to become more aware of ourselves in the present moment, which is always the important time and place, because that's where we're making fresh karma all the time, where we make our decisions and choices, and where we can really know about ourselves. It's being mindful, clearly comprehending this body and mind in the present moment. We can't do much about the past other than learn about it, remember it, learn it from it, but we can't change it. And the future we can only speculate about. The important moment is the present moment. And this is why it's so valuable to have a regular meditation practice, to develop and cultivate this skill and the strength of mind that comes through practicing mindfulness, being more aware of ourselves. And then we can be heedful because we can watch over, guard over our behavior, whether it's just our thoughts, our speech, or our actions. The mindfulness practice has this quality of bringing up the qualities of guarding over, looking after the mind. And this is how we can be more careful in our lives. And as I was saying in the meditation just now, when we practice mindfulness, it's as if we're coming into the presence of the Buddha. Those qualities that the Buddha himself developed and cultivated, we are also cultivating when we practice mindfulness. We become more heedful, more careful, and we get to know ourselves better, so we can understand particularly where suffering comes from in our experience and how to abandon it, and how to avoid suffering again. So in the case of the neighbor's dog, once they know where the snake lives, then they learn not to stick their nose in there. Or the cat that is too curious learns where the danger is, assuming it didn't kill them. And for us, we learn that if we stick our noses into other people's business too much, it fills our mind with all kinds of negative thoughts, speculations, worries, can give rise to jealousy, thoughts of comparison. They're better than me, worse than me, they get more than me, it's not fair. When we're not very mindful, we do spend a lot of time sending our mind out through our senses, through our eyes, our ears, getting to know about the world, and much of that is involved with other people and what they're up to. You just think about it, when we spend all our time thinking, looking, concerning ourselves with other people and their affairs, what effect does it have on our own mind? Fills the mind up with all kinds of information, data, much of which is not that useful to us, and also a lot of it is toxic. It stirs our mind up in a negative way, has a negative impact on our mind. So spending some quality time with ourselves, practicing meditation, is a vital component for our own personal well-being and happiness. And it will improve our relations with the world around, because we'll be more aware, more heedful, and more discerning about how we interact with the world. We can be more careful what we say, what we do. Nowadays we spend so much time on social media and on our computers, absorbing information from the world. If we don't practice mindfulness, our mind just gets full of the chatter of the world, and we can get overloaded, just like a computer can get overloaded and crash. Mentally we get overloaded, hearing about others and what's going on. And this isn't to say that we should just shut ourselves off from the world, of course. But when we practice mindfulness, it gives us this ability to control ourselves more, to choose, and to discern, to develop some wisdom and understanding of what is really useful for us and helpful and conducive to our happiness, and what is not. And one thing you notice when you practice mindfulness is, often we don't even know ourselves very well. So if we're spending a lot of time finding out about other people and thinking about them, a lot of that information, those thoughts, those opinions we form are really not very well informed. They're not very accurate. Because you think how little you know about yourself. Then when you start thinking about other people, it's going to be even less. Even though we form opinions about people, there could be the one living with us in our own house, or it could be someone at work, or someone just in society as a whole. How inaccurate a lot of that information is going to be. That's something you find out once you realize how inaccurate your own information about yourself is. Often we have a lot of false images about ourselves, opinions and views about who we think we are, what we are, who we are. But as you start practicing mindfulness, you become much more aware of what's really going on in your mind. And a lot of the false opinions and views and thoughts drop away, because you realize they're not that valuable to yourself. And you also, that will happen in terms of how you think about other people. And it just doesn't mean to say it makes you cold. It simply makes you more aware of what is true, what is not, what you really know and what you don't really know. What's left is actually the opposite of being cold or uncaring. What's left tends to be empathy, compassion based on understanding. Because the more you understand yourself, then the more you can understand other people and realize that they and us have many things in common. And probably number one thing we all have in common is we all want to be happy. We all want to be at peace in ourselves. We all want to have a sense of well-being. Even animals have that. And if we're not very much in touch with ourselves, we're not developing much awareness of ourselves, it's quite hard to truly develop a sense of happiness and well-being. And we often are not very good at empathizing with other people either. So many people, when they do practice mindfulness, one of the first things that arises in their experience is not necessarily deep states of samadhi or deep insights that kind of change the world. Often the first kind of realization people have is just an awareness of gratitude. Gratitude for having the opportunity to practice, and awareness of how much we have received from other people. Because when your mind quietens down and you turn your attention inwards, you become much more aware of your relationships to other people in terms of what you've received, who's influenced you and helped you in a good way. And generally brings up a sense of gratitude and happiness based on that awareness of what you've received from your parents, teachers, friends, good friends who have helped you in your life. This tends to percolate up, filters up into your consciousness the more your mind settles as you practice mindfulness. You're more aware, you're more open. And this is a very healthy thing. When we have gratitude arise in our life, it's a very healthy, nourishing quality. And it tends to lead on to all kinds of skillful behavior, skillful actions. Because when you're grateful, you tend to want to emulate some of and bring up some of the same kind of help that you've received in your own actions. You start maybe to be more appreciative and more aware of how you can help other people, maybe give something back to those who have helped you, or just help other people that you know, and help them in a good way. Maybe the best way to help someone is get them to practice a bit more mindfulness. Even that, it brings up a sense of gratitude, gratitude to the Buddha for having practiced and developed this way of practice and then giving it out to the world just as a free gift to the world. Gratitude arises when you think of the Buddha or the practice of mindfulness of breathing. And then when you think of other people, you think, what can I give for them? What can I do for them? Maybe tell them the good news about the practice of mindfulness, how it's helped you, or encourage them to do it for themselves. Not so that you can just tell them how good you are or try to impress them with what you know, but it's more this genuine appreciation of the value of this training of the heart, training of the mind in mindfulness. Because if you realize it helps you, it's helped you to become a better person, improve, then that's what you want for others. So the practice of mindfulness and meditation in particular is considered like the best kind of merit we make, the best thing human beings can do. We often say, I want to be a good person in life. Well, if you want to be a good person, training your heart in this will help you to develop that. It'll help you understand what real goodness is. Because often we're a bit fuzzy in that, in our understanding of what is good in the world, what is bad. We form opinions through our life, and some of them are based on good experiences and well-informed, but some of them maybe are just fairly casually acquired opinions from other people. When we do spend too much time listening and talking to other people and thinking about them, often the opinions we form are not very wise or not yet very solid, on very solid ground. They're not in line with the truth maybe. But as you practice more meditation, you really understand what goodness is in a human experience, a good state of mind, a mind that has peace, a mind that is alert, awake, the mind of, say, compassion, the mind of understanding, the mind of wisdom. You can see these are some of the qualities that come with a good state of mind. Whereas what we might call the opposite of good, bad, is accompanied by, as a state of mind, it's accompanied by agitation, restlessness, a lack of patience. We become impatient. So what are examples of bad states of mind, unskillful states of mind? We'll say anger or ill will. The mind is unable to settle down, can't concentrate, it can't be at peace within itself, and it tends to be more destructive. Selfishness, based on greed, so just greedy, selfish desire, wanting something with no consideration of the context or the consequences of that. Again, the mind is agitated, it's not content, not happy in itself. Or delusion. Delusion, what's that like? Well, it's like being in a dark room and bumping around. You keep hurting yourself when you're deluded. You keep thinking or saying or doing things that cause you trouble, cause you pain, and cause other people pain. When you practice mindfulness, you become much more aware of what is good and what is bad, what is useful, what is not useful and beneficial, what is harmful. That kind of knowledge becomes much more apparent to you, much more clear. And you might say this is a great blessing, one of the greatest blessings a human being can have is to have a way, a technique that they can actually learn for themselves through their own experience what is truly good and develop that, and to give up and abandon what is bad, what is harmful. Of course, if we do have good friends, this is an important factor in life, and we shouldn't ignore good friends, because often good friends give us good advice. Often it's advice we don't want to hear either, because they're telling us the truth, how we need to change or improve ourselves, giving us some skillful feedback. So we shouldn't ignore them. Whereas when I was talking earlier about not spending too much time thinking or focusing on other people, it's more just the general population and the general news and the things that are going on in the world. We haven't got enough time to spend so much time just thinking about other people and watching them. But if it's a good friend, then a good friend can be valued, and their advice and what they say and the example they set can be invaluable in our lives. The good friend will tend to lead you in the right direction. They'll put you back on the path when you've strayed off it. So the good friend can be anyone. It could be a family member, someone at work, someone in your social circle. It could be teachers. The good friend is someone you should pay attention to. And sometimes it's, the good friend gives you the medicine that is the bitter pill. It's hard to swallow, but it's the most valuable thing that you need to hear. So they can tell you, do your meditation practice, put effort into that. Don't spend so much time thinking about other people and getting upset by what they've said and done, or comparing yourself to them and feeling down if they seem to be getting ahead of you. The good friend will remind you to come back to yourself. But there's the good friend on the outside, the person, but there's also the good friend on the inside, those qualities that we are developing, the goodness of the heart that we develop through meditation. Who are you associating with when you are watching your mind in meditation? You get a good chance to see who your mind is associating with on the inside. Are you spending time with the good friend on the inside, finding the goodness within yourself and these skillful qualities? Or are you spending more time with the bad friend on the inside, complaining, caught up in the negativity, the doubt, the guilt, the worry, all the more negative qualities? If you're spending all your time fixating on those kind of qualities and the moods they generate, dwelling on those moods, dwelling on memories that promote those moods, well, you're spending more time with the bad friend, and the result is, well, they tend to lead you astray, and you end up feeling miserable, unhappy, not peaceful. Whereas when you spend time with the good friend, the internal good friend, these good qualities, what's the result? Well, you feel more peaceful, you feel happier. Especially at this time where a lot of the world is in lockdown or having to deal with social distancing and various restrictions. You may be restricted from meeting the true good friends on the outside. You can't go to places, you can't meet your friend on the outside. You maybe can contact them through like this, through digital media or telephones and so on. But this is a really good time to investigate who is the good friend, and if you can't meet the good friend on the outside, well, try and find the good friend on the inside. Be a true friend to yourself. Ask yourself, what kind of advice do I give myself every day? So if you do have a regular meditation practice, so you get up in the morning, first thing in the morning, and as part of that meditation, what are you reflecting on? What are you doing with your mind? Do you begin your day just complaining about everything? Focusing your mind on what's negative about your life, the world, what you have to do for the rest of the day, all your problems that you have to solve, all the things that you have to do that maybe bring up certain negative reactions. It's a really good time, and the first thing in the morning is to consult the good friend on the inside and set your mind up for the rest of the day. Set yourself up for the day to at least face the day with some skillful qualities. And you're reminding yourself to be patient with those difficult situations that are going to come up during your day. Those people you have to talk to, that job you have to do, that task you have to do that you don't really like. Just remind yourself to be patient, get that resilience, and that maybe that's all it requires. You just remind yourself of that, and then you have that quality there in your mind when you go out to face the world. Remind yourself to forgive. If there are people that annoy you, irritate you, and you know you're going to meet them, well, first thing in the morning, remind yourself to forgive. Remind yourself to be mindful, to practice mindfulness, because we forget. We forget the Dhamma, and it's the good friend who reminds us. And if you aren't able to meet the good friend on the outside, well, you're going to have to find the good friend on the inside. Everybody has these qualities within them. We all have many good qualities, but we need to draw them out through this practice. And to draw things out, you have to go in first to draw them out. Just like an actual friend you might have who's become sad or depressed for some reason in their life, something has gone wrong or something's happened. You have to spend some time listening to them, talking to them, and drawing them out of their mood of sadness or anger or depression, whatever it is. That might take some time and effort. But it's a way you could really help them by doing that, investing the time and drawing them out of their mood. But sometimes we have to learn how to do this for ourselves as well. Not every day that we wake up in a good mood. Hopefully it's majority of the days, but there'll always be one day sooner or later where you wake up and you don't feel very good. Sometimes it's generated from our physical feelings, so you feel tired from not having slept enough, or accumulated tiredness from your work or your family responsibilities perhaps. Or first thing in the morning, you just remember something that already puts you in a bad mood. So you develop this skill of just pausing, and that's what meditation, one of the things you're doing in meditation is you're just pausing, recognizing what's going on in your mind. So if your mind is going towards the more negative thoughts, the worries, the fears, the anger, the jealousy, that's the trigger for you to turn to the good friend. And you have to give yourself the right instructions at that time, just as a good friend might tell you, never mind, just accept what's happened. Say something's happened that you didn't like, just accept what's happened because you can't change what's happened maybe. Or to look for the good in something, so to look for the good in a situation even though there may be bad aspects to that situation, or if it's a person who's been giving you a hard time or genuinely bullying you or causing you trouble, try to look for the good when you think of that person, try and draw the good out in your thinking to apply to that person or that situation. This is part of our practice. This is our practice. And when you're practicing meditation, you're quiet, you're on your own, you've got time, you can do it very well because there's few distractions, few disturbances. And you're setting yourself up, you're developing that skill so that for the rest of your day, as you go through your day, you can come back to that same reflection, those same skillful qualities that you were bringing up in your meditation, you can return to them. So as if you can return to the good friend through your day, even if you're totally on your own, or if you are with other people, but they're very busy, you can return to these inner qualities over and over again through your day. This is what we call making merit through meditation. We say, oh, sit down, cross-legged, close your eyes, but the most important thing is actually what are you doing with your mind when you're doing that? And many of those qualities won't just disappear when you finish your meditation. You can take them with you for the rest of your day until maybe the next time you have a chance to meditate. It's an ongoing practice of cultivation of these good qualities of heart, or you might say the internal good friend, developing that friend so they're always there for you. And that's what a good friend is. It's somebody who's there for you through thick and thin. The economy is good, the economy is bad. The pandemic comes, the pandemic passes away. The good friend sticks with you throughout. And you have to be that good friend to yourself. Because the potential is there, we all have the capacity for goodness as human beings. You might say that defines us as human beings. As human beings know how to be good, but we don't always rise to our potential or fulfill our potential. We don't always rise to the occasion and bring out the goodness in every situation. We have to work to do that. The word, one of the words for meditation we use is kammatthana, and that means the basis for work. What work are we doing with our heart, with our mind? And it is work, but it's good work. It's work that leads to happiness arising, peaceful states of mind, brings up mindfulness, brings up understanding and wisdom. So it's good work, but it is work. But it's a different kind of work from what you do out there. You go out to work in the world, you're always seeking reward. You work, you want your money, your pay for that. There's no reward in that sense from the work you do with kammatthana. And actually you're letting go of that whole desire system, the system of thinking, what's in it for me? What will I get from this? What will I attain? What will I get? You're shedding, letting go of that way of thinking, and you're just doing the work because you have that understanding that it is good for you and it's good for others. So kammatthana is like this, developing meditation on an object, developing awareness on the breath, on using the word buddho, or any other meditation theme that you're developing. It's work, but it's good work, and you're not wasting a lot of energy just thinking about what reward you will get for it. Again, it's one of our delusions. We tend to sort of always think, what will I get from this? What will I become? When I get my peace of mind from my samadhi, what will I get from it? I'll be a better person. Or maybe I'll be able to impress others. I'll get some permanent state of happiness. Well, various good results will come, but if you're just focused on that while you're doing it, it will narrow down the effectiveness of your meditation. You'll get too caught up. You'll maybe even be stimulating your greed as you meditate. Instead of letting it go, you'll be stimulating it. And you notice we all have that kind of habit. We like to do a little bit and get a lot. and we think about how much we'll get for this little bit of good work we do. So whether it's meditation, you do 5 minutes meditation, you want to be peaceful for the rest of your life or the rest of your day. Maybe you're asking a little bit too much there. Or same with the practice of dana, generosity. You practice some generosity, which is good, but then you want everything for it. So I offer my dana to the monks, or I do this bit of charity, or I do some volunteering, and I want to be reborn in heaven, and I want the whole kingdom of heaven for myself for the rest of eternity for this one charitable act. We tend to be like that, don't we? When we're greedy for results or attainments in anything we do, we're going back to the normal kind of worldly state of mind where I do this work and I want everything in return. I work for a year and I expect to be CEO of the company already, or a management level already. Same sort of thing in Dhamma practice. The truly good friend, the wise friend, will say, stop thinking like that. Let that thinking go. Just do the job, do the work. So when you're meditating, just put your attention on the breath. If you're peaceful, good. If you're not, never mind. Just keep doing it. Stop thinking about the rewards, what you're going to get from it. Whether it's dana, whether it's keeping precepts, whether it's meditating, listening to the Dhamma, acquiring knowledge. It's another one we get caught into. If I read this Dhamma book and I really come to understand what the Buddha was talking about, the Four Noble Truths or some aspect of the Dhamma, then I'll be there. Then I'll have everything I'll need. I've got what I want. I'll be successful. I'll be attained. And so some people go for just acquiring more and more knowledge. And on one level, of course, it's impressive. It's useful. Knowledge can be very useful. But on the other hand, it can be deluded because we're just seeing it as a kind of attainment, the more we can remember about the Dhamma. When we're really practicing, developing kammatthana, developing this ability to be mindful, present in the moment, and understand, particularly, say, the arising and passing away of thoughts and feelings, and see the impermanence of this body, when we're really doing that, this is direct knowledge of our experience. It's not just based on memory. We start off remembering the teachings, and that's good. So listen to the Dhamma, read the Dhamma. But the whole point of kammatthana and developing mindfulness in daily life is we're developing direct knowledge by bringing our mind to the present moment using a meditation object. So there's the work of sitting and walking meditation, but then literally when you go to work, you do your job if you go out every day, or if you're at home just looking after the house or the family, or you're just retired, whatever your situation. Your work is to bring up mindfulness from moment to moment. That's your aim. And to let go of the mind that's always wanting to get something in return, get some reward, get something for what I do this to get that. That way of thinking is so deeply ingrained in our society. It's quite natural for us to think like that. I always want to get something else. I do this so I can get that. If I get that, then I'll be happy. You're dismantling that whole structure, that whole way of thinking, and that whole sort of way of our self manifests in our life, and just learning to be present in the moment. And many people have talked to me about, during this period of lockdown, say in Melbourne, where you're restricted from going anywhere, can't leave your house except for 1 hour a day to do some exercise. They found a lot of comfort, peace, and happiness in just practicing mindfulness in the present moment, whatever they're doing. Because they're so restricted, so limited in what they can do, they're just learning to enjoy very simple activities like walking. It doesn't matter where you're walking or what you're going to do next, just the action of walking. Or sitting, just sitting in the garden, sitting in your room, being at peace with yourself, just sitting mindfully. And this is totally in line with what the Buddha taught. The Buddha said, practice mindfulness so you're aware of sitting when you're sitting, walking when you're walking, standing when you're standing, lying down. Enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with being mindful when you're lying down to have a rest at night or whenever. Or sometimes we just lie down because we're ill or very tired. Just lie down mindfully and learn to just enjoy that activity. And then all the other activities we do, whether it's just going to work, doing our job, whether we're typing on a computer, we're thinking through some problem associated with our work, we're calculating figures, or more mundane tasks like cleaning, washing up, washing clothes. You'll notice when you bring mindfulness to the present moment and you just do that activity without seeking any reward, anything in return, the mind lightens up. The mind becomes much more peaceful, much more content within itself, because it's not wanting anything in return. That's exactly the state of mind you're developing when you do formal meditation. You're just learning to be mindful of the breath. When your mind finally gives up all the wanting, the expecting, the wanting to attain things, that's usually when you gain peaceful. Gain peace, you gain samadhi, you gain state of calm, and you gain insight, because you realize how impermanent and temporary all those thoughts were. You can let them go. You can drop them. They're not the real you. They're not any self that you have to grasp hold of and hold on to. So much of the most peaceful times and the best times we have with ourselves, when we find this good friend inside who is just relaxed, calm, mindfully going about their business, dropping a lot of the expectations and the desires. It's like being with that good friend. You feel happy to be with that friend. But that friend is inside. It's these good qualities that come when you're practicing the Dhamma, mindfulness, developing some understanding of your own mind and letting go of everything that clouds your mind, causes you suffering, stress. Your mind becomes more equanimous, more resilient, more able to cope with the ups and downs and the different unexpected things that happen. And we become more peaceful within ourselves. So for today, I've given you some encouragement with your meditation practice. I hope some of that may have been useful for you. But I'll end the talk here, and I think there's some time for questions and answers after.